Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to talk about my labor and delivery story. So, first off, I wanted to give you a little overview of my birth plan. Before going into delivery, I had a birth plan which basically indicated that I wanted to give birth naturally and um, have no epidural or any form of medication while I am in labor. So, my plan was to do it all natural. During my pregnancy, I thought about getting a doula, and my husband and I threw out the idea a lot. However, I ended up not getting one, and it was mainly because I kind of procrastinated and didn't want to get one last minute and kind of not have that bond with my doula. So I just figured I'm not going to get a doula, and the only person I want in the room is my husband. So my birth plan was to just have my husband in the room. And the doctors, obviously, and give a natural birth with no medication. The reason I didn't want an epidural was because, first off, I've always, as far back as I can remember, I always thought to myself, I don't want to have any medication while I'm giving birth. My mom did it all natural, so I wanted to do it all natural. The thought of getting a needle in my spine freaked me out. The thought of kind of not being in control of my body, so losing feeling like from my waist down, that really freaked me out. That was the main reason why I didn't want to get an epidural. And the last reason was I didn't want to be stuck in the bed the entire time while I was laboring. I didn't want to be stuck there, not able to walk around and kind of move around because I'm pretty active. I'm kind of a busybody and I don't want to be stuck in one spot. So those were the reasons why I didn't want an epidural. Was open to the idea of it if it was needed. So if I had any complications, I was completely open to the idea of it. But my main goal was to do it all natural. So I'm going to go ahead and start by telling you my story. All right, so on August 10th, 2016, I was sitting at home and I felt like my underwear got a little wet and I wasn't sure what it was. I went to the bathroom and it literally was like, there was like this much liquid, water, pee. I didn't know what it was in my underwear, but I was 99.9% sure I didn't wet my pants. So I figured, okay, maybe my water broke. Definitely not like what you see in the movies where you're like sitting on a huge puddle of water or like you slip in it. It wasn't anything like that. So I decided I was going to get up and kind of tidy up the house. I'm a very clean person, didn't really have much tidying to do. There were a few dishes in the sink. I washed those. My husband was working from home that day. He was on a business call and our dog was sitting in the office with him. So I decided I would go furminate my dog. Furminating is basically a brush that we have which takes out all the excess hair that's in his body because he sheds a lot. He's a French bulldog and it gets everywhere. So I figured, let me go furminate him in case I do go into labor and I want him to be as hair free as possible. So I went ahead and did that. My husband got off the phone and I looked at him and I said, I think my water broke, but I'm not really sure. And he was super excited. He's like, yay, finally, because this was 5 days past my due date. So we were kind of just waiting for it to happen at any time. So he said, okay, I'm going to go ahead and call Kaiser and let them know your water broke and kind of give him a heads up. And I said, all right, you go ahead and do that. I want to take a shower. And he said, well, I want to take a shower too. So I told him, you go take your shower first and then I'll take my shower. So stepping back, during my pregnancy, I attended a few different classes that Kaiser provided us. There was like a breastfeeding class, an early pregnancy class, and a late pregnancy class. And in the late pregnancy class, they went over like the different stages of pregnancy. There's stage 1, where you get contractions every once in a while. It's not too bad. You can talk, like you're happy, you're excited, everything's going good. And then there's the second stage where, contractions are coming on a little bit more frequently. You're not able to talk as much, or like you have to like kind of stop talking while you're having a contraction, and you can kind of go about your business. And then there's active labor, which is you can't really talk at all, like contractions are coming quick, quick, quick. And then there's the pushing part. So in my mind, when I had gone to this class, I had told myself, all right, so once I start labor, in order to increase my chances of having an all natural labor, I'm going to labor as much as I can at home. So in my mind, I had a plan. Once I go into labor, or once I start getting my contractions, I'm going to go for a walk. I'm going to bake lactation cookies. I'm going to like organize things. So I kind of had this like idea in my head. Okay, these are all the different things I'm going to do when I go into labor, when I first start having contractions. Now back to the day of my labor. So once my husband jumped in the shower, he came out, he was getting everything prepared. He was taking our pregnancy bags, our hospital bags into the car. He was taking our cord blood kit to the car, a cooler to the car because I wanted to save my placenta. I can go ahead and talk about that in a different video if you guys are interested. He was getting all that ready, and then I had jumped into the shower at that point. Once I was a few minutes into my shower, I started getting contractions really bad. Before that, I hadn't had one contraction, so I had no idea what contractions were, and that was like a huge fear that I had my entire pregnancy, was that I have no idea what a contraction is going to feel like. What does a contraction feel like? Well, I definitely know what a contraction feels like now. So it feels like everything just kind of tightens inside your body. It's like a Charlie horse, but in your stomach. Not so fun. Anyway, so after I had my first few contractions in the shower, I realized I need to get out, I need to get ready, and I need to go to the hospital. So I get out of the shower, I'm like sitting on the floor trying to get ready, kind of rocking back and forth and yelling to my husband that we need to go right now. Like, I need to get to the hospital right now. So we get in the car, start driving there. Luckily, I only live 5 minutes away from the hospital. We get to the hospital, and in my mind, always I thought, okay, I'm this tough chick. I'm going to walk into the hospital by myself. I don't need a wheelchair. I'm going to, walk my way up, get in the elevator, and admit myself into the labor and delivery room. That didn't happen. That went out the window as soon as the contractions hit. I could barely move. So I was kind of like in one position in the car the whole time. And once we got there, I looked at my husband. I said, you know what, Kaz, you need to go get me a wheelchair right now because I can't walk. So we get to the little roundabout at the triage. He gets me a wheelchair. We go inside. Labor and delivery is on the 5th floor, and guess what happens? There's an old couple in front of us trying to get on the elevator. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm in so much pain. I was doing the breathing exercises that I had learned in my late pregnancy class. I was doing my pregnancy breathing and kind of trying to get in the zone. And these old people were literally like just taking forever to get on the elevator. And they started asking my husband, like, oh my gosh, is she in labor? Are you guys having a girl or a boy? Like asking all these questions. And I was getting really frustrated. Not that I was frustrated that they were asking these questions, but I was in so much pain that at that point I was like, are you freaking kidding me right now? Like, just let me get to where I need to go. Luckily they got onto the elevator. We finally got onto the elevator, and they were nice enough to let us go to our floor first, and then they put in their floor and they went to their floor. So once I got to the labor and delivery department, they checked me. They told me I was 3 centimeters dilated, fully effaced, and that I was going to be admitted into the hospital. So that's where my whole labor process started. So I went ahead and I got changed into the gown and got into the bed, I couldn't move like out of any position. I was like stuck in one position, kind of like tilted to the side. I tried getting on my hands and knees, like facing the bed, like on my fours, but that was a really bad position for me. My daughter Mila was really, really low, and I was just having a lot of pain. So the only way that I could, the only position I could really tolerate was kind of being on my side. For the first hour of my labor, I was able to talk and like tell my husband, please massage me or don't touch me. When I was having contractions, it was like a don't touch me, like get away from me type of feeling. He was cracking jokes with the nurses, and that was really annoying to me because some of the nurses were not getting the jokes, and he was trying to like clarify, and I was trying to like concentrate on my breathing and get through the contractions. So during that time, I was able to verbally tell him like, shut up, like let me do this. Like I don't need you talking. Just kind of like give me peace. And then during the second hour of my labor, the contractions were coming on even harder and harder. And at that point, I couldn't really talk. And I was kind of communicating to him to be quiet through my breathing. So the regular kind of turned into a and he jokes about it all the time. He's like, you were psycho. Like, you were possessed. It's funny because, like I had said before, I didn't want an epidural. So I had told my husband, no matter what, no matter how much I beg you, please don't let me get an epidural. I didn't want to be stuck in the bed, but I didn't get an epidural, and I was stuck in one position the entire time. I couldn't move. In my mind before, I was like, all right, I'm going to go in the shower at the hospital. I heard that helps with contractions. I'm going to do that. I'm going to bounce around on the ball. I'm going to walk around the room. I even told people I wanted reggaeton music in my room so that I can get my dance on. But unfortunately, I was stuck in one position and no epidural. Anyways, after the second hour, I looked at my husband and I said, you need to get the doctor because I'm like in a lot of pain and I think I'm going to give birth soon. And he's like, he tells me now, he's like, I was thinking like, okay, it's only been, like 2.5 hours. This isn't looking good if that's how she's feeling. And when we first got to the hospital, doctors told us, okay, you're 3 centimeters dilated. You're probably going to give birth, sometime tomorrow. So my husband was thinking like, all right, great. She's only been in labor for 2 hours and she's telling me to get the doctor because she thinks she's going to give birth. Anyways, I told him to get the doctor because she hadn't checked me since I had gotten there. And he goes and gets her. She comes in, checks me, and looks at the nurse and my husband like with a kind of puzzled look on her face. And at this point, I don't remember anything really. Like everything's kind of a blur. And then she checks me again and then looks at my husband and says, oh, she's fully dilated and you guys, she can start pushing. So my husband was like totally caught off guard. He's like, oh my God, that was so fast. He wasn't expecting that. And at that point, I started preparing to push, and the doctors were getting ready, and it was all about to start. So at that point, it was my husband in the room, the doctors, and like I said, I don't really remember much towards the end of my labor. I kind of had an outer body experience. I was in so much pain that I kind of left my body. I don't know any other way to explain it. I left my body, and that's the only way I think I could tolerate giving birth without the epidural. So I kind of was like in a spiritual hypnosis. That's the only way I can put it. And then one thing I do remember is my mom was in the room and my grandma, and I was kind of not aware of this. I knew my mom had come in earlier, and I didn't want her in the room originally just because she's a little bit of like a worrywart, and I thought like that might affect me, like that might freak me out a little bit. But she was in the room, but she was kind of like hidden and not in my way. And I remember like when I was pushing, I like looked over to the side and she was like hiding behind the bathroom door, like peeking out the bathroom door, and like it was hilarious. I started laughing and my husband thought like I was going crazy or something, but I had actually seen my mom like peeking. That's like one of the only things I really remember during the pushing part of my labor. Um, so I pushed for about 20 minutes, and as I was pushing, another thing I remember briefly is the doctor was telling me, "Oh my gosh, she has so much hair." So my daughter has a lot of hair. That's like one of like her main features. Everyone's like, "Oh my god, look at her hair." So that's an interesting thing that I remember. Anyways, during the pushing, I had remembered that I had learned that if I didn't want to tear, because that was like a huge thing for me. Like I was so freaked out that I was gonna tear or get like they're gonna have to like cut me. So that was like one of the scariest parts of going into labor for me. I had learned that if you don't get an epidural, you can feel it better, so you're able to control your push better. And the better you can control your push, the easier it is to push properly so that you don't tear. I also heard that when you're pushing, you want to, towards the end after the baby's crowned, you want to hold your head up and kind of have an open mouth while you're pushing so that you don't push too hard. So those are the techniques I used, and I didn't really tear. I mean, I tore, but it was very minimal. The doctor was actually really surprised at how little I tore. Anyways, those are the techniques I used. Pushed for 20 minutes, and she came out, and she was put on my chest, and they actually had to monitor her while she was in me, and they had like a little sticky thing they had put on her head so they could monitor her heartbeat, just to make sure that she wasn't overly stressed while I was pushing her out. So they went ahead and checked everything really quick. She cried as soon as she came out, and they put her on my chest after that. We did some bonding time for about half an hour. Then they took her and they did like all the APGAR testing and everything. Took her weight, took her height, checked for jaundice, and then they put her back on me. And I was able to breastfeed her and have skin to skin. So my experience with that was really great. One thing I wanted to mention, I didn't feel any pain at all once she was put on my chest. It was like, people had told me that before, like, oh, after you, like, as soon as they put her in your arms, like, you're not going to feel any pain. And it's actually really true. You don't feel any pain after that. It's like I was on cloud nine. Everything was amazing. And to this day, I kind of forget labor pain. As crazy as it sounds, I did it all natural with no epidural, and I forget how it feels, just because it's like such a temporary thing in your body. It's like the most natural pain that you're supposed to experience. So, I mean, contractions were crazy. I remember they were crazy. I just don't remember how bad they felt. I definitely felt her coming out, the whole ring of fire thing. But for me, the contractions were worse than the actual pushing part. And after that, I had my baby girl, and could honestly say it was the best feeling and is the best feeling that I've ever had. I've never loved anything more in my life, and it was just such a great experience. Raising her is definitely challenging. I mean, it's a new experience that I had never experienced before. I didn't know how to really, I mean, I changed some diapers, but didn't know how to change diapers. Don't know how the whole sleeping process goes. Don't know, she gets gas. Everything is so new, but we're working our way through, and she's doing so great. She's actually sleeping a lot better now, which we didn't get any sleep for the first like 2 weeks. It was crazy. But I just wanted to give you guys my birthing story and kind of let you guys know that you can do it all natural with no epidural if you really want to. And you have to be open to complications happening. I mean, if they happen, the main goal is to get your baby out as safe as you can. Don't go in there with the mindset that you only want things done a certain way. Life is just so unpredictable. You don't know what's going to happen. I kind of went in there knowing that I wanted to do all natural, and if it came down to it, if I had labored for like 20 hours and they told me I needed a C-section, then that's what was going to happen. Giving birth with an epidural or having to do a C-section doesn't make you any less of a mother than somebody who didn't do it without any medication. So you just got to go in there and do what's best for you and be open to the idea that things may not go your way. But if they do, great. I mean, I was super lucky. It happened the way I wanted it to happen. But if not, oh well. As long as your baby comes out safe and healthy. So that was my birth story. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions regarding birth without an epidural, you can comment down below. If you liked my story, please give me a thumbs up. And I hope to have you subscribe to my channel so that I can share more stories with you, more tips with you, exercise and health tips, and cooking recipes. So if you like any of those, please subscribe. All right, I'll see you guys in my next video. Take care. Toodles.